Hello. My name's Liam. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how we can use open data, storytelling, and data science to build smarter, more sustainable cities. Now, first I'd like to ask, has anybody seen this map before? Can I get a few hands? Anybody? Fantastic. One guy. Great. Off to a great start. This is John Snow's 1854 cholera map, and it changed the world in a number of ways. Now, I'm going to tell you a bit about the background to it before I launch into it. Back in the mid-19th century, there was a persistent idea that disease was spread by miasma or bad air. Now, this kind of governed the way cities were designed for a number of years. If you've been to Edinburgh, one of the reasons why the city is so windy is the tenement buildings are positioned in such a way as to drive the bad air out. So it was a powerful idea. So John Snow spent about 10 to 15 years trying to convince people that it wasn't a problem with the air. It was a waterborne disease. It was something that was carried by contaminated water. And one of the reasons why the tide changed was because he published this map. And I hope you can see the dark black bands show the number of deaths in that particular area. Now, it shows that the deaths, they cluster in this one part of Broad Street in Soho, and I hope you can also see as a pump there. And so in one fell swoop, John Snow managed to demonstrate that it wasn't the air that was carrying it, it was this one pump. Now, he went over to this pump and he completely dismantled it, and over time the number of deaths subsided. So it also changed the way that cities were designed, and that's something that's still being felt today. So what the map did, it showed that data could be used to tell powerful stories. Okay. So we're living in the middle of a data revolution, and this is changing how data is being produced and consumed on a really powerful kind of scale. And here in the UK, we're at the center of it. We're one of the best countries in the world for publishing open data. And here in Leeds, we're at the center of it. We're really leading the way. And Leeds Data Mill is really part of that. It's a portal for organizations, not just the government, to publish data ranging from household waste collections to trade union facility times, air pollution, and also road traffic casualties, which I'm going to talk a little bit about later on. So it's about using the data that's key to our day-to-day lives, and it's making it accessible so that anybody can go and download it, and they can interrogate it, and they can ask their own questions, and hopefully do something useful with it, to try and build some civic apps, which is I'm leading. Oops, sorry. So one of my favorite examples of how open data is being used to do something good is Leeds Empties. And what we've done here, it was a joint project between ODI Leeds and a social enterprise that was run by a guy called Rob Greenland. Now, a few years ago, Leeds had a huge problem with empty homes. There was about 10,000 empty homes back in 2008, and this made the city one of the worst in the UK for empty homes. And this made some people's lives a little bit harder. Students, for example, like myself, and young people who are just trying to get their first step on the property ladder. Empty homes flooding the area can cause some problems. So we set about creating an interactive tool to show this change over time. So we wanted to encourage people with open data to put their empty homes to good use. And between 2008 and 2015, the number of empty homes went down by about 3,000. So we did see some really nice impacts. And across the pond, we're seeing some really interesting stuff in Chicago with open data as well. Their team of civic technologists are building various really interesting kind of applications. Like this is a crime in Chicago, so it uses open data from a portal similar to Lee's data mill to show you granular aspects of crime data in each ward. So you can kind of drill down if you wanted to look at how crime unfolded in the last week or in the last year, you can go onto the site and you can click through it, and as I say, you can kind of ask your own questions and find out really kind of important data about your area. I've worked with data in various capacities for a number of years, most recently with news, where I worked with a team that specialized in producing visual journalism. For example, a few years ago, well, actually not a few years ago, very recently, when the Malaysian airliner went down, we spent a few days trying to track where it went, or at least track the people who were investigating it. But it wasn't until I came to Leeds that I got interested in civic technology and using open data and my kind of data skills to try and do something good and to try and tackle a problem. So being relatively new to Leeds, I came here about a year ago, I wanted to try and get to know the area a little bit better, and I thought, why not create a map? I help create maps for a living, so I decided to build a cycling casualty map using data from Lee's data mill. So I built the map, and the first thing I noticed is that heading lane up the road have a huge problem with cycling casualties. It's a dot density map, so if you have a number of casualties overlaid in a certain area, it kind of creates like a pattern. So it's a darker red, I hope you can see. So it kind of, what I was quite pleased about is it got a little bit of attention. And it's now being used to do something quite interesting. Sorry. Oh dear. Hang on, bear with me. There we are. Okay, so it's now being used to form part of a campaign to educate people about the rise in cycling casualties and also the number of pedestrian casualties and where they kind of distribute across the city. That's me on the left, Stuart Clark in the middle from Bloom, and that's Rob Greenland, who I mentioned earlier, who organises the Leeds Empties. He runs it. And so hopefully we'll do something quite interesting with it. We're hoping to build I've got a simple kind of application that shows in real time the number of casualties that have occurred over the last week. I've also, so there's another map here. Excuse all the maps, there's lots and lots of maps. Hopefully a few map geeks amongst you. I've already showed you the cycling casualty map on the top left. The bus and coach map, it kind of, just to give you a brief idea of of how they're distributed across the city, they are concentrated quite heavily in the Vicar Lane and the hedgerow, which is, is kind of a nasty kind of road if you're not if you're not a bus or if you're not in this case. So these I've mentioned the campaign involving road traffic casualties, and I've mentioned Leeds Empties, but that's just two of the projects that we undertake at ODI Leeds, which aim to use open data, data science, and storytelling to try and address a problem in the city that's hyper-local and really relevant, and will hopefully make a difference. One of the big ones we've got is Leeds Data City, and this is a way for organizations who work with data to map their assets and to kind of collaborate across different sectors and to do something interesting, I think. We've got several hundred now, I think there might be more. Yeah, we're seeing some really interesting stuff. I'm also working on a library recommendation system, which involves some developing a machine learning algorithm to recommend books and DVDs, because there's been a huge drop in the number of people who are taking stuff out in the libraries, which is a massive shame. We also have Bus Start, which is being run by an associate ODI Leeds called Tom Forth, and this aims to join bus routes with areas that have high levels of unemployment. So it's directly kind of linking people in a nice kind of in a novel way, I think. So another thing we do at ODI Leeds is we run events, and a great example of what we did very recently, about a couple of months ago, was we ran something called a Yorkshire Water Data Dive, and we had an organisation, Yorkshire Water, come to us with open data, and they knew the value of it, but they came with some reservations. So a common one was, are you going to reveal anything about customers, which we don't want to. And the second one was about like a reputational risk, which is extremely common. Now, the first thing we did to put their minds at rest was to make sure that the data was anonymized. And the second thing was that we wanted to demonstrate that the open data and the methods we were using were really to solve a problem. We wanted to create something that improved the organization in some way, in this case to reduce water consumption. So we came with this idea of reducing water consumption by 5 liters per person per day. And on the day we had some really interesting things. We had people building dashboards. We had people, there was a team that built a game that kind of engaged people around reducing water consumption in a nice kind of way. We also had one guy who just came along and revealed loads of really interesting insights about water and about the organization itself. And by the end of it, they really understood what we were trying to do. We were trying to do something that wasn't causing the organization any risk. There wasn't any reputational risk involved. It was really just about building something good with open data, and I think they realized that over time. And so the Lee City dashboard is a big part of this. It's really helping this drive in Leeds towards this kind of open innovation that I've been talking about. So you can go on, you can kind of drill down into the stories that are really relevant to you in your day-to-day life. So as you can see, you can check house prices over time. You can see where there are spaces available in car parks. And this is the kind of stuff that we need, and that kind of solves a problem. And it's a really nice way for you to kind of so you can engage with that kind of data and use it in your day-to-day life. And finally, I'd like to talk a little bit about Jakarta. Now, Jakarta is a large city in Indonesia, and it's one of the smartest cities in the world. And it's not because the technology is particularly advanced or futuristic. They don't have self-driving cars or like buildings that clean themselves or whatever. It's because the city it uses people alongside these tools to respond to problems. Now, Jakarta has a massive problem with flooding, and what the city decided to do is they decided to use Twitter to address that problem. Now, Jakartans tweet more than any other city in the world. So, what the city decided to do is they started to crowdsource those tweets and to make that data open and available so that services could respond better to the flooding. And yeah, another map here on the right-hand side, you can see shows how the flooding is developing in particular regions. So what I'm driving at here is it's great having this open data, but what you really need to do is you need to engage with people in cities and to ensure that they're part of that kind of decision-making process. I think that's key to really creating a smart city and to ensure that Leeds is really still leading the way in this regard. So I'd like to thank you for listening and for Hebe Works for sponsoring the event. That's me. That's my contact details, everything. So thank you.